Hey everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Snapchat. I'm joined today by none other than Drewberry. Drewberry, how are you today, my friend?
Yo, what's up, everybody? Alex, I'm doing great. How are you doing, my friend? You were at PAX. It was
It's
awesome.
been a wild ride, my friend. Like honestly, completely crazy. So I gotta fill in the fans there. What's been going on? Okay, because like Drew comes in to swoop in and save Cozy and I all the time. We really appreciate you, my man. And basically, what happened, Drew? This is like the fourth time I've recorded this podcast. Cozy and I tried to do the podcast live multiple times, and we had the worst technical issues. I couldn't believe it. We recorded like a 45-minute segment, and the files were all corrupted at like 1:30 in the morning, and it was like a total disaster. It was absolutely heartbreaking, and we recorded as much as we could in the morning, and then I had to catch my flight. We literally wrapped up our mics, and I ran to my plane. It was crazy how everything worked out, but you know what? C'est la vie. Life goes on. The show must go on, and that's why Drew comes in and swoops in to save us. And if you're thankful to Drew, the best thing you can do to say thank you is use the link in the description to follow this gentleman on YouTube. I tell you, it came up in the past, Drew, and I know you're like, come on, man. But seriously, we talked about it in the past. Cozy and I truly believe you are one of the most talented Marvel Snap content creators. The amount of effort, research, and just the quality of the content you produce is remarkable. We love you, buddy, and it's a pleasure to have you on.
Oh man, that is huge. High praise coming from you two, who put out like the most highest quality content in Marvel Snap, and on top of that, the effort, the dedication, everybody. I don't think you understand what Alex has been through, and then to go right into another podcast of recording. It's impressive, man. But I'm just super happy to be here and to talk some Cannonball. This is gonna be exciting.
Yeah, we got 3 topics here today. We do have Cannonball, which is going to be the obviously card and review from the prior week. We are also going to be talking about our favorite cards at every cost. I know that, listen, it's one of Cozy and I's absolute favorite subjects, so I'm excited to do it with you as well, Drew, and we'll have to do it next week with Cozy because he's going to be heartbroken that he's missing out on it. And then we're going to be doing our Snapchat mailbag. We got a couple surprises there because we were at PAX and we just might have a cameo from a couple fans. Regardless, guys, thank you so much for your viewership, and let's start with Cannonball. Cannonball came out this week, Drew, and I know you do your weekly Snapper Pass segment. And just to give you kind of like a little bit of info, across all ranks, he's currently running a 51% win rate, which is not all that impressive. If you change that to infinite only, it goes way down, way down. He ends up at just breaking 50%, almost 49. So when you're not even breaking 50%, it kind of starts to showcase that maybe the card is a little undertuned. What were your first impressions when you were evaluating Cannonball as a card worth spending your spotlight keys on?
That is very interesting to hear. But I'm not overly surprised at where he's hovering for that win rate, because a lot of people, I think, were comparing this to maybe a Shang-Chi. You can have the potential to heavily disrupt your opponent, move that high power card away, or in the best case scenario, destroy it outright and put a rock there, which is just great. But I think what's happened a lot is that it is much more difficult than perceived to actually fill up the other 2 locations so that you can actually get the destroy. And the movement, while it can be game winning, it's just a little bit too inconsistent. You might just shove that winning card over to another location where it happens to win. We've kind of seen that with Stegron, right? And Cannonball, I think he's doing a little better than Stegron was, but he's just not quite living up to what a few people were hoping he was going to be.
No
How do
kidding.
you feel about it?
I mean, the way I was thinking about it was, this meta was one of the ones that he could have potentially shined. Like, you have Thanos still, despite the changes, being a dominant force in the meta. And if Thanos is still good, right? All those stones are taking up space, right? They're putting out lots of stuff. It's very straightforward to have these lockdown locations, or these locations that are full. And so Cannonball should be able to favorably trade there, especially since Thanos tends to have initiative as well. But even in those matchups, he seems like he's not actually worth running at all.
You took the words out of my mouth. I can't believe you said that, because I was thinking the same thing. If Cannonball was ever to thrive, this is his meta right now. Like, this is his time, and he's not achieving that. So I feel like he could only go down unless he gets some kind of miraculous buff. And on top of just the stones filling up the locations and whatnot, Mockingbird has made a big splash into the Thanos lists, and Mockingbird can't get hit by Shang-Chi. So it almost seemed like that's a prime target for Cannonball to hit, but it's still just not coming together. And in fact, I've seen decks running Cannonball, Thanos list that is, that are running Cannonball, probably just because the deck carries itself on its own right and can make up for having this card in it. I don't know, it's crazy.
It is. And I had this moment, like, listen, when I was testing Cannonball, I feel like it had its moments. You're like, you know what? I actually did something. That was pretty cool. Had this game where like someone tried to Galactus me, and I actually out-traded them and maintained initiative. And then I was able to just Cannonball generate enough power to kind of just wipe them out. It was awesome, right? It was a really cool moment. But there are so many other moments where Cannonball is just like the worst card you can have in your hand. Like, even if you want just the 5-8 power, like, I'm like, well, they stormed that location and I actually won it. Like, he's going to go win that location now. And Stegron, right, as a 4, is he a 4-6 or 4-7? I don't remember the last time I looked at that card.
4-6.
4-6 still? Did he,
Yeah.
was he a 4-7 like accidentally in an OTA and then they rolled it back? He was 4-7 at some point, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think it was a misprint on the OTA patch notes.
Yes. Oh, that's what it was. That's right.
Yeah.
And so anyway, Steggy's still not getting any love. And then like there's a reason why Stegron doesn't get played, right? And so naturally Cannonball feels similar. And the destroy, it was funny because you mentioned a lot of people were treating it as if it was another Shang-Chi or another ability to like destroy a card. But the destroy a card, it feels like such a secondary condition. It feels like a win more condition. Not even a win more condition. It feels like a bonus prize. It doesn't feel like the card's primary function, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's just kind of a bit of an add-on if you can, with that upside, right? That you just hope it works out. But man, I gotta say it when it comes to Cannonball, I did not pick up the card to be honest with you. I have played against it several times, but I don't think I've lost or not a direct cause because of Cannonball. So I've seen it in action, hasn't really impressed me, and I did not pick up the card. I will say one thing really quick though. I think this guy is much better in Conquest than Ladder. Seems a little bit better of a control tool in Conquest. If you know what that highest power card is going to be, then you can kind of plan accordingly.
Oh, that's really interesting. But like, I think we need to talk about the fact that you said you passed on a card. You're a content creator, so you didn't pick up this card. I'm sure you could have, and you chose not to. That actually is pretty interesting. Like, do you actually want to walk me through why you decided to pass on a card despite being a content creator in the game?
Yeah, sure. So I've been doing Snapper Pass. It's a weekly series on the new card. I try to get it like 3 days out before so people can think about it over the weekend if they want to pick up the card or not. And when I say that I'm going to pass on the card, it's not only my verdict for how I feel about its maybe power level or what I think folks should do with their resources in game, but also a representation of what I will be doing when this card does release. So I try to be fairly honest as possible if I think it's, maybe just not a card for me, or maybe if I don't think it's going to be very strong, or maybe if it's a wait and see. I think too many people jump the gun and pick up that card like the day that it releases when, you got all week. You can just wait it out and see some of the stats and how it does. But yeah, I'm actually missing quite a few cards. I think I might be close to missing 10 cards, to be honest with you.
I actually find this incredibly fascinating. So you legitimately follow your own advice.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to put it. Yeah.
That's super fascinating to me. I think should resonate with the community, because as content creators, I think the expectation is that we get all the cards, but I really like the idea that you stand behind your verdict, and that if you say a card, you don't think a card's going to land, and you actually hold yourself back and you hold yourself to your own verdict, I think that gives people confidence in your content and gives people confidence in your verdict because you're standing by what you said. I honestly, full props to you. I think that's an amazing approach. And I think that's really unique in the space. I think you might be one of the only ones that does that, because I've not encountered anyone else that does. So kudos to you, my man.
Thanks. Yeah, I hope it helps folks out, like it's, the reason I do it primarily is because if I don't own every single card, if I'm a little tight for the resources, because they're not in abundance, if you're a casual player, you're not playing a whole lot, you probably don't have a whole lot of tokens, a whole lot of spotlight caches, but you still want to get the odd new card when it pops up. So I try to think, well, if I'm closer to that player in terms of my resources and what I can spend, then I have a better idea of how to gauge these cards, sort of. So when I do say snap, and I've been wrong. I've been wrong, but at least in my mind, I'm confident that it's going to be a good card. And if it isn't, then you can have the pleasure knowing that I burned my resources to get the card and I was wrong, and vice versa. If I said to pass on the card, rather, and it turns out to be an absolute banger, well, I'm losing out just as much as everyone who followed my advice.
That's a really cool approach. And actually, I've had this thought, and I've pitched this before, and let me know if you think this is a good idea. Like, Cannonball is a great example of this, right? Like a card that's kind of mid, like you're not sure if you want it, but you might want it. You might have a really creative idea of how you could use it, but like you really want to commit a Series 5 level of tokens to it, or like roll through caches that might be suboptimal. I really think there should be like some sort of thing that when a card is featured in a spotlight cache or whatever, I think you should have like tickets. Like you should be getting like 5 tickets every week, and that means you can add it to your deck, and every time you play it, you lose a ticket. And then like it's like a demo, right? So once you play Cannonball 5 times, you either get it or you just let it ride, like you let it go. I think that'd be cool, so people can actually play it and be like, oh, that's what he does. Okay, I'm gonna spend my 6K. And then eventually, as they use their tickets, then they have to make their decision.
I love that idea. And you know what else, Alex? I remember you talking about something similar to this over a year ago. I watched one of your videos and you were mentioning about, no joke, about how in the shop there should be like a rotation of demo or something along those lines. And I was like, that is a good idea. And I completely agree. A little try before you buy kind of situation. And I like the tickets, like a limited amount of uses per games, so you don't get too much use out of it. And if anything, I bet that would promote people to actually pick up the card more often than not. They get a couple quick wins with the new card, and then they're like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna roll with this guy. So yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And I think it benefits Second Dinner as well, because it helps everyone be excited about the launch day. Like, even if you're a free-to-play player, you get a chance to try the new thing, get in there, play with it, and then make your decision, right? I think that's actually pretty cool. So, like a trial ticket, every time you play the card, not just in your deck, every time you play the card, like a ticket comes off of them. Like anyways, I'm glad you liked the idea. Let us know in the comment section what you think as well, and just maybe we can will it into existence. But anyways, my verdict on Cannonball is that I think that the card is ultimately a pass. I don't necessarily think that you need to go for it. Unfortunately, Miss Marvel's also in the spotlight cache. So while we're talking about Cannonball, I feel like we'd be remiss not to mention Miss Marvel. Now, I find myself playing Miss Marvel slightly less than I used to in the past. The condition change is actually pretty notable, especially since, you are getting a little more, debris and other things that might be disrupting that effect. But ultimately, I do think Miss Marvel should be in people's collections. And if you don't have Miss Marvel, and if you get Cannonball, it's a nice consolation. Miss Marvel's probably the real catch to the Spotlight Cache. Drew, what are your thoughts?
I completely agree. Ms. Marvel's been a great card for a very long time. Even since she was changed, where you have to kind of double down on her ability, have 2 cards of varying costs on either side. She's just still proven to be what she really is on paper, and that's 14 power in the right scenario, which is just great for a 4 cost. So yeah, she's very well worth having in your collection, which always makes it a bit difficult, I think, with the new card. If it's a bit underwhelming, do you make that push? And that's where I think just certain people just need to have a look at their collections and just kind of gauge how much you're willing to go for Miss Marvel. But she is a great card.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that'll take us to the end of our discussion on Cannonball. Ultimately, a pass here. We'll see if the meta evolves. But honestly, it's probably a confident pass. And that takes us to our next topic of discussion, one of our favorite ones that we do on the Snapchat, and that is our favorite cards at every cost. We go through each cost 1 through 6, and we elect our card of the current season. And for me, I got to tell you, I'm so excited because I got to play some stuff I hadn't been able to play in the longest time. Now, just so you know, Drew, if you have an honorable mention that you just need to add in as a second, we do accept it here. Cozy usually gets upset with me. I've listed like 3 or 4 before, and like he tries to edit them out because I keep talking like I have like 7 3-drops I want to talk about. So we do allow for like an honorable mention, but ultimately, let's start at number 1, Drew. I'll let you kind of lead the way here. 1 cost. What is your MVP of the month?
Okay, this one might shock people. And wait, am I to clarify? Is this my favorite card, or is this like MVP, like best card of the month, or meta right now?
Great clarification there. It's your
Okay.
favorite card. It does not
Okay.
necessarily have to be a competitive card. Just the one that you've been playing the most, having the most fun with, the one that you're like, you know what, this is the card at this cost for this month.
Okay, sounds good. So, bit off the grid, I think, but I think my favorite one cost to play is Blade. I
Ooh, okay.
really enjoy Blade in the discard archetype. He puts it all together, but just being a cheap discard, targeted discard on the right side, which is the most engaging side because you can, get that APOC back to hand or that Swarm back to hand. I just find him very smooth, very fun to play in discard. He's probably my favorite part of the entire discard deck in general. So yeah, I really like Blade, and he's got amazing variants.
Can you imagine, like, I don't know, 6 months ago, us talking about how Blade is a card that you absolutely love? The one that just discards Hella every time, or any card you do. Oh, Blade only hits Hella and Dracula, just so you know, right? And now, what an elegant change to Blade, honestly. What a very elegant change, especially considering the interaction you talked about. When discarded cards re-enter the hand, it re-enters at the right. And it also, it's interesting, if you're holding Blade and you top deck something big, it goes to the right. That can also be kind of weird too when you're holding Blade and you're like, please top deck something that's not like it's something give me something I want to discard, and you get your Dracula and you don't like it's you only have 3 energy. You're like, damn it, I guess I got a Corvus. But I do like that call a lot. That's pretty cool. And Blade has been a very consistent performer and still a 1/3, which is a overall premium stat line at the one cost. So
yeah, he's just I just find it very fun. And of course, discard got a lot of love in February, so it's been pretty fun. It's been pretty strong, and yeah, he's just a tried and true. But I completely agree. It's funny. This has to be one of the best changes, in my opinion, that they've ever made to a card to bring it to life.
yeah, there's a couple changes that really stand out, and because it's like it makes the card relevant again without breaking the meta or without like pushing the envelope too far, so to speak. Very, very well done change. Absolutely. Like Wolverine was a great example of that too. Right?
Oh, yeah,
Like another good
really
one.
cool.
Like just a perfect change. So yeah, 100%. And the one I'm going to bring up here, my favorite of the month, is a card that honestly was one of the best in the game. The one that like people were like, this card, I hate it. I can't believe people play this. They're so toxic. And then it just fell off the radar completely. And then it came back because of the X-Men event, and it is my boy Iceman. Iceman has made a comeback, and like there's gonna be a recurring theme here. I loved the X-Men and Avengers event. I loved it. I had so much fun, and Iceman really benefited from that. Would you believe that a 1/3 Iceman is actually good? Hell yeah, it is. Iceman was my one drop of the season. I can't tell you how much I love this card.
Oh yeah, what a great card. And the disrespect from the community to drop this from majority of meta decks. I mean, this guy was the staple one drop, I feel like 6 months ago, or maybe even more than that. I know he's got, kind of it's gotten crowded a bit with those nebulas and sunspot, whatever else, but man, Iceman, he's just a good card. And like you said, perfect event for him, right? Just thriving as a 1/3.
Yeah, it's interesting. One drops have like kind of become pretty diverse. Like you have the utility based one drops like Iceman. You have the power based one drops, as you mentioned, like a Nebula. Nico, this is just pure value, pure versatility, right? And then you have like the ones like Blade. Yondu, that was an accident. Yondu's just poo poo right now. Wait for Baron to come out. Maybe we'll talk about Yondu. But it seems like the one drops are starting to carve themselves these niches, which are kind of interesting. And I do really like the effect of Iceman, but I think that because you don't see it hit, like you don't see the cards you hit, you don't get that dopamine hit that you get with like a Spider Ham, even though it could potentially be just as soul crushing for them, right? Like you hit their MODOK and they're like great, or like you hit Sarah or whatever and it's soul crushing, right? So very interesting choices there. So let's move on to number 2, Drew. You are our guest, and I'll give you the dibs on your number 2 card of the season.
All right. This one was easy for me, and you're highlighting him right now, or you were just a moment. It is Daredevil.
Dude, it's mine too.
No way. Let's go.
It's mine too. Okay, talk to me about Daredevil.
Oh, he's just the best, man. Whenever this card came out, I loved it. Funny enough, I don't know if people know this, but he was a season pass card way back. I think like the 3rd or 4th season pass in Marvel Snap. It was Daredevil. And yeah, he's just a lot of fun. I love knowing where my opponent's going to play. I mean, who wouldn't? But
Yeah, I know, eh?
it's just so much fun. I also love a lot of lockdown decks and stuff like that. So pairing this with Professor X, I don't know. He's just a solid card. He's got amazing variants. Just a lot of fun. Unique too. Completely unique.
Yeah, I have two thoughts about Daredevil. One is when I play Daredevil, I'm like, oh, this is what stream sniping feels like. And two, do you remember when he first got released that he used to turn the entire screen red?
Yes.
And you couldn't see anything at all. Like you literally could not even play your cards because you couldn't see them at all. That was something that I think obviously got fixed, but a little fun tidbit for people that might remember those days of Daredevil. And if you don't, because you came into the game later, then trust me, you've been spared because it was extremely difficult. Now, Daredevil, honestly, it's for everything you said. I love it. And I've been playing... Listen, Galactus has kind of fallen out as like a meta deck, and because of that, I feel like I get to play Galactus anytime like a toxic style card kind of starts to wane in popularity. I'm like, okay, now I can play it again. Like I never played Loki when it was hot because I didn't want to tilt people out. Now that Loki's kind of around still, I feel like I can play Loki, but it's Galactus I've been really enjoying, and I've been playing a Ravonna based deck with the Goblins, and I love Daredevil because if you don't draw Ravonna and you got turn 5 and you can play your Hob. I mean, it's so good. Like it can be so punishing to just shut down and lock down a lane. So I've been really liking Daredevil because turn 2 is either Daredevil or Ravonna, and both of them allow me to either they both give me an opportunity to soul crush my opponent. That's what I'm after when I play Marvel Snap.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Man, you're making me want to just go play that deck right now. I got a similar deck with the Goblins, Galactus, Daredevil, and it's just fun. That turn 5 Hobgoblin, when you know your opponent's not playing there and it locks up a location, oh, that's just the best feeling in the whole world.
It is a nice feeling. It is a nice feeling. Now, another card I just want to bring some love to here. I got to show some love to Armor, too. Of course, Armor during the X-Men event got a +1, so a 2/4 Armor. Hell yes. Give me that all day. And I think that Armor single-handedly destroyed. Because during the X-Men event, one of the top decks of the meta was actually one that I designed. It was the X-Men Surfer deck, and that deck ran Armor, and it had a ton of play, a ton of popularity in terms of meta share, and Destroy just plummeted in win rate because everyone's dropping Armors on stuff. And then when the X-Men event ended, right, no one's playing Armor because the X-Men Surfer deck now sucks, right? Because hey, +1 power across the board. Would you believe that it's good? Anyways, now Destroy's back up. Like the win rate actually kind of came up because of Armor in and of itself. So I just want to give Armor a shout out because this card might be one of the least appreciated both offensive and defensive cards in Marvel Snap.
It's true, and it's probably because of the thousands amongst thousands of Destroy mains out there. Because I feel like that's the most popular deck at any given moment until the X-Men Avengers event. But yeah, Armor, man, what an underrated card. Just a good tech option. Probably one of my favorite tech options. So I definitely agree with you to just put in a deck just cause. Yeah. Just because, especially with those locations maybe that destroy things, and that can be a little surprise play, shutting down Destroy. Yeah, I like Armor a lot.
Yeah, Armor's been phenomenal, and it's one that kind of like slipped out of the meta a little bit. I think Kyera ate some of its lunch a little bit too. That takes us to our 3 costs, and I'll lead us off here because I kind of just hinted at it.
Yeah,
my 3 cost has to absolutely be Silver Surfer. I'm pulling a Coccia here. I can't find the card. There he is. Silver Surfer is it's been one of my absolute favorite archetypes since it ever came out in Marvel Snap. I just love the way the deck plays. I love the versatility of all the 3-drops. They all feel like you can go power, you can go utility, versatility. There's so many 3-drops, and you can design a deck that every Surfer deck can feel totally different based on what 3-drops you add. So I really like the replayability of playing Silver Surfer, and I think it really did benefit from the X-Men event because we had so many good X-Men that were 3-drops. So for me, it's Silver Surfer.
Yeah, that's a great pick. You know what? I'm surprised I didn't actually go with Silver Surfer because I really enjoy those deck lists. I've been playing them ever since he's been out. I agree with you. He's got that variation in his different deck styles, but yet it's still a Surfer list. Yeah. There's no matter how many cards have changed, it could be like 11 of the 12, but if Surfer's in it, it's a Surfer list. And there's very few cards in Marvel Snap that can actually capture the name of a deck so consistently like Silver Surfer can. which is awesome. I think it's just awesome, especially for the character, beloved character and
Yeah.
whatnot. So, yeah, I think that's a really great pick. But for me, I had to stick with my toxic roots. I'm a huge fan of the junk decks, and my most played card and my favorite 3-drop is Green Goblin. I love the goblins, and this is no exception. It's just so satisfying getting a nice goblin in that 4th quadrant at a location. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely unbelievable. And I mean, Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, these are cards that I absolutely love. And I mean, listen, you only have 12 slots, 12 spaces in Marvel Snap. Like, space is a commodity. And when you take space away, that's bad. That's bad for your opponent. Now, obviously, Green Goblin can be negatively impacted by, like, Deathlocks, Carnages, and others, right? Destroy tends to favorably be able to kind of deal with that. But if they're not playing Destroy, then they're just like, well, there's a spot that, sucks, or now I got to throw initiative so I can Annihilus it back or something, right? The Annihilus mirror matches are like some of the most stressful mirror matches in the world, but I love the call on Green Goblin. It's one of my most played cards in Snap too, which is crazy. Drew, it's like you and I, we're like 2 peas in a pod with our gameplay here. That's awesome.
How about that? It's great.
Then actually, we don't even move that far off, ironically, from Green Goblin, because as we move to our forecasts, the one that really stands out for me is another one you're likely to find alongside Green Goblin, and it's Sentry. Sentry has been a card that, for me, has just been unbelievably powerful. It's basically a 420. He's blazing when he comes out with Annihilus. And I love the control element of, like, your opponent being like, hold on, we know the void's coming over. Do we stuff the lane? What do we do to deal with this void? Do we just let it come over and give that lane? I love the mind games part, and I think that Sentry's a really fascinating card.
Look at you, Alex. I see you with that Kim Jacinto gold foil. Look at that card. That is a beauty. And so is Sentry. I do love Sentry. What a great card. And funny enough, would we be saying that a year ago, Alex?
I know, eh? What a useless card a year ago. All the hopium we were huffing, just trying to like Viper like the void over and Carnage it or play Valkyrie on it and stuff.
Yeah. Way too difficult for the level of effort that had to go into it. But yeah, now he's just fantastic. He's such a fun card. Even if you can't play it to the right, that's a pretty heavy-handed restriction. And I actually don't find myself in a situation where I ever feel like I need Sentry on the right. It usually doesn't burn me too bad. And then obviously that stat line is just incredible. 410, always a good time. So I really like that call out, and I rock the same variant. It looks so good. But for my pick, I actually went with possibly the most played card in Marvel Snap, which might be a little unusual, but I went with Shang-Chi. It's a tough one for me to pass up on in the 4-drops because probably the quantity of times that I've actually played the card, but also I do find it very satisfying getting a nice destroy with Shang-Chi. It can swing games. It's fun to play against. You always have to be kind of conscious that your board is vulnerable to a Shang-Chi play. And yeah, it's just kind of fun, even if it can feel really bad sometimes.
I think Shang-Chi is incredibly important to the game. Incredibly important to the game. I was in a tournament where I banned Shang-Chi. And then people were like, seriously, like that's what you're doing? And I'm like, yeah. And then the meta felt so weird in that tournament. Like it was just a vertical tower of power basically all the time. And it was important that this card exists. It's such an essential release valve. I know it's frustrating, but it's so incredibly important. But what I will tell you is that anytime I see Zabu come out, I'm like, Shang-Chi's in that deck 100%. It's such a pair, right? Zabu, Shang-Chi. However, when Zabu's not on the board, even I on occasion will get caught. I'm like, this Patriot gamer actually just Shang-Chi'd me? Like, what is happening in this world? And so like he does come out from surprise every once in a while, but generally speaking, you could assume they have it because they probably do.
Yeah, it's one of the cards you just have to be aware of it. If you've got something that has 10 or more power, look out, because it could happen, and it's too big of a swing not to think about it. I've always kind of had the philosophy with Snap, and I find this card kind of emphasizes it, is that I try to understand my deck, but when I'm in a match, I'm trying to focus on my opponents. So knowing what I have going in so I don't have to think about it, and then focusing on what my opponent may or may not have. And Shang-Chi is just always top of mind. You're always just looking out, do I need to react? Even like something like Monster Island comes out, and all of a sudden that could be a huge swing location, because if one player has Shang-Chi, that's essentially a 10 power swing. So yeah, he's a crazy card, but I agree with you that he's vital to the game.
Absolutely. And post Infinite, he runs a 32% meta share, which is probably going to be the highest in the game. As we move into number 5, for me, okay, there was a moment last week where I was playing so much Nimrod. Destroy completely dropped off, right? And I think part of that was because of the popularity of armor and some other stuff countering Destroy, and just overall people experimenting with other decks, right? But with that, I think it kind of gave me some leeway to play Nimrod. Now, Nimrod's hard to play when Destroy is really popular, because if they have Null and you don't have Null, then you just die, right? And if Null's not in the equation and you're just playing regular decks, then all of a sudden Nimrod-based decks start to shine. I play like the the Shuri Nimrod Destroyer type stuff, and I love it. So Nimrod makes a surprise appearance for me at number 5.
That's wild. I did not see this one coming. Nimrod. But I understand there are Nimrod lovers. The Church of Nimrod is real. I have a couple of friends that adore this deck, and that's like pretty much all they run. And they're constantly sharing screenshots of just a dozen Nimrods on the board. It is a very cool card. The effect is a lot of fun. Also a season pass card. I don't know if everybody was
got buffed though. It did get buffed.
Yeah, 5/5 to a 5/6. Was that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And even better with that Shuri Destroyer play you were just laying out. You go 6 to 12 and then a couple 12s everywhere with 16 power Destroyer back in form. So I completely understand. That's definitely a fun card. I don't play it a whole lot myself though, I must say. So I'm going to have to snag a deck list off of you.
Oh, buddy, I would be happy. But I'm interested in hearing your number 5.
Yeah. So for me, number 5, I feel like this one's pretty obvious if anyone knows my channel, but huge junk favorite, and that is Annihilus. Annihilus is my guy at 5. When this card was released, I had a blast playing the junk deck archetype, even though he got nerfed, where he previously, if it was anything under 1 power, it would get shoveled over. Or sorry, it was 0 and less. Yeah, now it's anything less than 0. Yeah. Which, you know what? And he's fine. It kind of worked out for Annihilus here. And I honestly, when I think back to new card releases in probably well over a year, this is my favorite new release.
Oh, 100%. Annihilus. I was just saying, I fell back in love with Galactus, and Annihilus was a huge part of that, because I think it gave those decks a non-toxic way. Like it gave it a secondary win condition that wasn't just, I'm going to play a toxic ass deck that like just ramps out Galactus on 4, right? I'm not going to just wave Galactus with Wolverine on the board and that's my play, and we 50-50 the locations or whatever, right? Like I like that it's an actual, like, it can be a closer if you junk them down and their location is stuffed solid and they're like a -1, and you're like, well, I guarantee the victory there, and they have to fear the Galactus. Not only that, as I said prior, the mirror matches with Annihilus are really unique, to the point where when Annihilus gets really popular, it enters my mind to play Ghost. It really does, because the initiative battle becomes so important. But if you play Ghost, then you just get stuffed by Goliath. So it's like, you just can't win. They're some of the craziest mirror matches you can have in Marvel Snap.
Yeah, and I often pair the two together. Annihilus and then Goliath are a great 5/6 combo. So potent. And usually your opponent can't do much, especially if you do, just like that card you were talking about earlier, you do that Sentry, Annihilus, Goliath, you pretty much guaranteed to have initiative on the final turn, and Goliath just sweeps it all up. So yeah, very frustrating deck type to play against, I'm sure. But a very fun one to play.
Absolutely. And that takes us to the big chunky boys in 6. Drew, I'll give you the floor for your favorite 6-drop thus far this season.
Okay, so there's a lot of reasons that I went with this card. It has probably been my favorite 6-drop for a long time, but we also have X-Men 97 rolling out, the new animated show, and my favorite is Magneto. I love Magneto.
Buddy, we are on the same wavelength. I can't believe it.
We do not share lists. We do not share lists going into this. So
no, we didn't share in advance. It's too much fun to do it live. Magneto was mine as well. Okay, I'll give you the floor. Why do you love him?
Oh, how do you not love this card? You know what's crazy cool about this? I was thinking about all the 6-drops. You know, so many have been changed, or maybe just were never present in the meta. And Magneto has pretty much always had a spot. He's always been relevant, always been seen as a good card, and he's never needed a nerf. He's just perfect. Like, he's just a great card for Marvel Snap. And his magnetic effect of pulling over the 3s and 4s is just a lot of fun. You completely steal those games, you know, that last turn where you actually pull something meaningful away. You're against that, like, Venom that got beefed up. They thought they had that location won. And maybe you don't even win the Magneto location, but the movement is what stole you the match. So, yeah, I'm just really passionate about this one. I love Magneto.
Magneto is truly remarkable, and he really shined during the Miss Marvel heyday as well, where just the disruption of the positioning of those cards really is impactful. And don't sleep on him against destroy players either. Like, destroy players can get their cheeks clapped just as hard when that Venom moves before a Zola play or whatever happens to happen, right? Like, it's a really damn good card. Like, I absolutely love Magneto. And I want to just give a special shout out as well. I mean, I know that, like, listen, I think that Tribunal needs some love, because Tribunal's been a really interesting deck that tends to trade pretty favorably with Hela. I think it's a fun archetype to play. It's a little bit of a one-trick pony a little bit, but I'm glad this card exists. I'm glad that this card gives people an opportunity to experiment with a different play style of Marvel Snap, and I think its power level is just right, where it kind of keeps things in check. So I just want to give a shout out to Tribunal. I think it's a good archetype.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout out. It's a very unique card when it was released. And funny enough, it came out in the same month of High Evo, and that was like a very revolutionary time for Snap, you could almost say, with the different meta shakeups, the cards that were released. And he has required some buffs. I think he's in a pretty good spot, though. I almost wish we maybe built decks different, or he wasn't so combo-centric. Because it does feel like sometimes if you don't get that combination, then it just isn't really worth putting out Living Tribunal. But if you do get that like Dream Iron Man combo, then it's fantastic. Because if he was at 10 power, he'd be in Shang-Chi range, and that'd be pretty nasty to get sniped by. So yeah, I don't know. I like the card. I like the card. I like the archetype that it builds. And I think, like you said, like, it's just a healthy spot to be in the game.
Yeah,
but
we need decks like this that kind of like keep things in check, right? And I believe when Tribunal was buffed, no, that wasn't it. It was when Shang-Chi was nerfed to hit only 10 powers, not 9 powers. They actually, in that patch note, shouted out Tribunal and said, we're keeping an eye on Tribunal as one of the examples of a card sitting at 9 that might need to get buffed to 10 so it can get punched in the throat, right? So, like, it's kind of interesting to see that, like, they are actually using the Shang-Chi range as, like, a buffable mechanic. Like, it's funny to think that going to 10 power is actually probably a nerf.
Yeah. Shang-Chi is the ultimate moderator of Marvel Snap. He's keeping everybody in check.
Oh, without question. And it's an important role to play.
Yeah. Yeah. It needs to exist in the game. And I think just like a card like Living Tribunal needs to exist in the game, it's great. I wish they'd sometimes be a little bit more ambitious and print cards like this a little bit more frequently, rather than stuff that just works in Thanos, if you know what I'm saying.
And that takes us to our Snapchat mailbag. But before we dive into our mailbag, we have a special Q&A with Tony and Johnny on the floor of PAX East.
Tony and Johnny are giving this guy a question for us today. Hey, what you guys got?
Sure. So what's your guys' favorite tabletop game here at PAX?
Okay. Nothing on mobile, just physical table. Okay, awesome, yep. For me, it's got to be this new Star Wars Unlimited. First of all, big Star Wars guy, big massive Star Wars fan. And see if me and Alex played it. How did that go, Alex?
It was fun. It was pretty cool. I liked it. I gotta tell you.
Yeah, but how did it happen? What happened in the game?
Cozy beat me. That's what he was trying to get me to say.
I crushed the game. It was fantastic. Darth Vader. Light side, dark side, or dark side. Okay, great. And push it.
Okay, so out of all the game's been out for a year now, which one's your favorite season?
Favorite season? Okay, of like Power Man, the Iron Man, like this season is just like, yeah, it's my brand. Such a good season card.
And to close out our mailbag, we have a special behind-the-scenes look at Cozy and I's PAX interview with Ryan Hartman, the director of Penny Arcade, and Dave Allen, the designer of the card back that everyone is clamoring for, the Captain America shield bursting through the back of the card back. We had a wonderful discussion about Marvel Snap, and would you be surprised to know that they are Marvel Snap players themselves, and pretty high ranked at that. Before we dive into that, I want to say thank you so much to Drew for joining us. We really appreciate you, my man. And as I said before, down in the description below. You've got to hit that button to go to Drew's channel, check it out, and smash that subscribe button. Hope you enjoy this interview with Dave and Ryan.
All right, guys, for this section of the mailbag, I'm actually super excited to introduce the PAX showrunners. We have some tremendous talent here in Dave, who created the infamous card bat that everyone's chasing right now, and we do have the PAX showrunner Ryan here as well joining us, and you might be surprised to know both of them are avid Marble Snap players. So this is going to be a great conversation, guys. Welcome.
Yeah, so PAX is Penny Arcade Expo. It started as a fan expo for Penny Arcade, but it's definitely eclipsed that. There's a lot of people here that come to PAX and they have no idea what Penny Arcade is. PAX is way bigger than Penny Arcade. But yeah, this is the 20th year anniversary, and it's essentially everything that's like analogous to gaming. Like there's a giant expo floor, and that's full of like big developers. You know, you got Final Fantasy showing off new games. You got Lariat, although BG3 is out now, but for a while they were bringing it. It was like this was the only place you could play it, and Nintendo's got a booth down there. Everyone's bringing booths and showing off games and stuff. And then independent of that, we've got a giant indie area. The indie area is fantastic if you haven't gotten over there, by the way, because that's a lot of fun. And there's always gems in there, like Celeste was here before it dropped. Like big Super Meat Boy, it won our PAX 10, and it's cool to see. Like that's all we had that like 2 years before it became a mega phenomenon. But yeah, no, that's where I started, and it was mostly because I was chasing Hearthstone. I really liked Hearthstone. Okay. Yeah, I know Ben he's come to PAX before, he's spoken at PAX before, so, you know, and he's a good game designer, he's a good dude. I was like, I want to check out his new game. And yeah, I was hooked instantly. Have you ever seen his GDC talk?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where he talks about the game design of this, and he's brilliant. I mean, everyone they have over there, it's very smart. Yes, they got a lot of really clever folks who are on early Hearthstone, but it's like talking about a lot of the design decisions, talking about how they based it off of the one what's the Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, where it was the lane combat thing. And it was like quick 5-minute games. It's like, yeah,
the same time movements, all of that. Yeah.
That's my favorite part of it. I haven't never played a game that like gets supported to this degree. Like there's a new meta every week. I mean, as you know, you get to do a podcast talking about all the changes in the meta. New card every week. People are just making creature comfort changes, the OTAs. Like they support the hell out of this game in a really, really impressive degree.
It's something that I always come back to. I feel like Marble Snap legitimately learned lessons from the card games that came before.
Yeah.
It solved the first turn problem. It really did. The Secret Turn, we just talked about that. And I remember in Hearthstone, like there was like a meta where like it was just Face Hunter for like 4 months.
Oh yeah.
Right? And like I lived through that. We all did, right? And Marble Snap corrects that. It really does. And like I think we've almost gotten addicted to that dopamine rush. Like if they want to really show us how much work to put in, like they just pull like, hey guys, we're not doing an OTA.
We've had them. It's like the Christmas holidays. It's like, what do we do now? You know, it's like it's usually pretty like we all were there for the leader days where he remember leader of Christmas. It was like it was like a month period where like no one wanted to play almost. It was death wave to the maximum. You had, you know, all the and 100% agree there. And I think what's cool about that is you have casuals and you have competitive, right? The competitive side is often what fuels the you know the game because the really diehards things. That's where the OTA comes in and talk, right? Keeps things fresh, and on the casual side too.
Absolutely, no, and that's like one of the things because like it's kind of what stopped. Like once I fell off Hearthstone, I was kind of done with Hearthstone. Like once I was off, I was off. But this game changes so fast. You could drop off. In fact, I did. Probably in the middle, I probably missed a season or two, like, or PAX got too busy or something and I couldn't keep up. I jumped right back in, and the game changes so quickly and so frequently. It's like you're not really left behind because it's a different game every week, you know? If we go through right now and if we list out what the best cards are, they're all like C and D tier characters in the Marvel Universe. I feel like they've gone out of their way to make the most popular characters like
Zapu, no one would count.
Jeff the baby land shark.
So I have to say this: we're doing interviews with different SAP, not just SAP people, just pulling cosplayers. This one guy, I was like, "What's your Marvel knowledge?" Like 2 out of 10, right? So I'm like, "Who's the most disrespected Marvel character?" And this guy goes, "Darkhawk." And I stopped the interview and I just look at him and go, do you play Marvel Snap? He's like, yeah, like I knew you did. No one rolling dark on my ass, you know.
Like Sleepwalker.
Yeah.
He's like random 90s character. Is it Speedball or something? Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I think it's so cool because everyone's like, is there enough Marvel heroes to support the game? I'm like, guys, we got dick. Yeah.
Isn't there a guy that's just purple?
Purple Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, put them.
That card back was a challenge because we were trying to make it convey PAX as a show without saying the word PAX or having the logo, right? It's kind of like you don't want to have your logo all over the back of the Marvel Snap card because they're all very like graphical and we were trying not to focus too hard on that. So it was just trying to figure out what elements would work for the show. So each year we do a different motif. And so this year was like the torn paper, kind of like the idea of you're downtown and you see the previous year's posters for concerts torn down, and you're seeing the different layers. So the previous layers of the previous show motifs that we had, starting I think in like 2016. So and we want to make sure that we're represented at every show that we currently do. So those are the 4 colors that we have, and then incorporating Mike's awesome art for Captain America. Focusing on that. Shield, ripping through the center to just kind of tie it all together. And then, prepped that file, did a whole bunch of variants, did so many different versions of what was working. And, the big thing to worry about is scale, because, you have to make it so you can see the detail, like small and mobile, right? So it is, I think we went through like 5 or 6 iterations before we ended up where it's at now. And, handed the layer PSD to Second Dinner, and they took it and they added the awesome lighting machine on Shield and really made it, brought it out there. And I think that is really what helps it sing.